We are back together again, and I'm stoked about that. We are the Canadian podcast portal to DJs, producers, electronic music, the industry, the stream, the dance floor, and everything that goes bump in the night. We are recorded live at Pod 6 Studios with the efforts of our producer Dan Rice and wizard engineer Rob. I am Jello, the host and Digi Sherpa for our audio and video storied experience. Our guest tonight is a performer hero in his hometown of Toronto, and likely everywhere he's touched down to play music. Some call him a DJ. Some would sooner label him as magic. From true humble beginnings, his ascension to the top of the game has happened organically, and our excitement to capture the details of that adventure is real. I love organic tales, and I know that you do too. From his own label Roots and Wings to Rawthentic to releasing upon Hot Creations, Hot Tracks, Records, Casual, Defected, and so much more. To residencies in Ibiza and here in Toronto, this dude has rocked floors in dozens of area codes, and we're fortunate to have him with us tonight. We are all together nearly 14 feet underground in the utility room with Nathan Barato.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks, man. Nice to see you.
You too. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Things are good with you?
Yeah, things are really good.
Right?
Yeah, pretty good. Chugging through sort of like almost normal life.
What's
COVID.
that like?
Just like getting back to maybe not what it was before, but just kind of feeling a little more like we're kind of living normally a little, no masks and, no restrictions from that perspective. So yeah, feeling good, feeling happy.
Are you doing the maskless thing, or are you at a half place?
I'm a little bit like, I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
But I'm not really scared of getting anything. I definitely don't want to get something and give it to someone.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'll be maskless if possible because I prefer it. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it just feels better. I'm just tired of breathing through the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you get stylish, or were you always doing like the blue paper thing?
I went straight like medical grade.
Right.
My style was like old school blue. I went vinyl on the mask pretty much. But yeah, kept it simple.
I have like this cloth thing, and it's like a black, and it's like, I guess like a bit of like a fashion thing. Because I was like, if we're gonna wear these things all the time, might as well get into it.
Why not?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just a little lazy that way. I would have, but I just never got around to it really. Yeah.
Do you feel the difference being out now after the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. There was, from my perspective, I'm speaking as a DJ in this mentality, not just like as a patron going out or other going out scenarios, but in Toronto, at least, I really noticed a difference in the crowd. Like they are way more energetic. I shouldn't say way more. Like they're louder now. They're really more vocally expressive.
Right.
They're chanting. They're hollering. They're, doing woo woo and like huh huh. Like they're really vocal, and that was really prominent when we had the first opening, like last summer or so.
Right.
And then we got shut down again, and now it's back. But it's not as at every gig. Before it was like, I would be like, you just like literally put the bass back on after taking it off and the crowd's like, oh my God. Like,
that's the best sound
like,
ever.
You could tell like there must have been a huge group of, kids turning 19 that couldn't go out through the pandemic that were just like surging to go out. I know what it was like for me when I was dying to go out around that age.
Right. It's a bit of a shaft if you would have been just about to turn 19 and like pandemic.
For sure. They've been through, the kids have been through, I think, the most, and it was like they were shot out of a slingshot. Like the dance floors are just like, pow, like everyone was just going nuts. So to me, that was the first difference I know. I'd look around, like we did Coda a couple times, excuse me. And it was like open at 8 or 9 o'clock earlier than I ever remembered before. And it was full before 10, and the place is going nuts. I'm like, things are different, definitely. But, I'm enjoying it all the same.
Good times.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. I've got a bunch of awesome questions for you. Start off with, why do you DJ?
That's a good question. I always kind of put it back. I have a similar feeling with why I make music. It started with like, I want to make someone feel the way I feel when I hear a DJ or I hear a track. Do you know what I mean? I kind of want to do that. And it's expanded from that feeling, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, it just feels really good. It feels happy. There's nothing really better than that moment where you connect with the crowd. And they're, in a weird way, they're kind of DJing too, because they're influencing your energy and you're just doing this back and forth. And, you can't get that anywhere. You can't buy that. You know what I mean? You know, you can't. No rich person can just go actually pay for that experience. I don't think. So I don't know. I think there's just like a value. I just really cherish it, and it feels good. I just love it. I'm kind of addicted to it.
You feel addicted to DJing?
Yeah, I would say that. Especially hit me, you know, when COVID hit and it disappeared. And I was actually planning to settle down a little bit on the touring at the time. I was already planning to kind of like ease out of the touring a little bit and, you know, just keep DJing. I mean, if it's up to me, I'll DJ until I'm dead.
Right.
You know, in whatever format that might, you know, transition to. I don't expect I'll be like 80 years old playing Vertigo at 4 a.m. You know what I mean? But you never know, right? I want to be playing music to people, like in some way. But I don't know. I just felt like when I was planning to slow down a little bit, and then COVID took it away overnight.
Took the slowdown away, or just
all the gigging is gone.
Yeah.
I'm not playing music to people anymore. Not even 1 gig a month. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm fortunate enough that I was able to gig a lot. You know, so I definitely was spoiled, and I recognized that I was spoiled. And then basically, I started to find myself get like kind of depressed Saturday nights. I'm like, I'm in a shit mood, and I realized that was when I was most commonly DJing. You know, and getting that, you know, adoration. It's the reality of the gig. You can't help but you kind of like fall into the adoration of it. But the feeling of, you know, joy of when you're playing a track and it makes the room go off. And losing that it was definitely something I had to sort of adjust to and learn how to be happy through. It took me a while. Yeah, it took me quite a while. Yeah.
DJing's a lonely gig.
Yeah, very lonely gig.
And the pandemic made it a lonelier gig.
Yeah, that's so true.
Were you more immersed in music creation during that time?
Yeah. I went through I didn't even want to play music. I didn't want to DJ. I borrowed my brother's like 2-in-1 setup, 2 decks and a mixer all built into one.
Okay.
Just so I was planning to just like play some music at home. I didn't have a setup at home before COVID. I just never really kind of felt the need.
Was it that you were performing so much that you didn't need to have the practice?
Pretty much.
So then how were you auditioning tracks before the show?
Well, I could play them. I could listen to them. I had
like
my studio set up and headphones, whatever I needed.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't practicing at home, which I look back and I think that was definitely, a mistake.
Are you a Tractor user or a Serato person?
No, I was for a couple of years.
Okay, so now you're showing up with the USB key and...
Yep.
Okay.
Now I got a full setup at home.
Right.
Through COVID, I ended up doing that. But, I didn't... It's weird. I had a little setup at home just to play. Maybe I'll live stream. I actually did like a little kind of radio show mix clouds, sort of thing. And I had it set up in front of me. I didn't want to play music I was in this weird sort of dark cycle, and I was just making music at that time, pretty much.
Was the music dark?
No, I wouldn't say that. A bit. Maybe there's a couple things that were a little dark, but nothing. I would say overall was like, mostly feel good stuff, I would say. Yeah.
So what would happen? Was it like a portal for you when you were putting stuff together on your computer, where you feel like you're stepping through a portal of happiness, and then when you switch off, it
yeah.
What a roller coaster.
Yeah, it was a weird one. Yeah, it was definitely a weird experience. I'm almost like kind of happy to have lived it in a weird way.
Huh.
I mean, not actually, I guess, but it was just like to go through an experience like that and come out of it and, feel okay, because it was really hard on a lot of people, my family, like, man, just a lot of things around me was really depressing and negative. So I'm just feeling good. I guess it's more about that I'm happy that I'm okay now, really, is maybe what I should have said. But yeah.
No, I feel you.
Yeah. Tough time.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And super reflective now, because it's for me, it feels like 2 years was like maybe 10.
Yeah.
You know
honestly,
what I mean?
The aging was accelerated through that process for sure.
At least the mental aspect of it, where I felt like the days were longer. Everything was just slower and not, and you'd be like, oh, okay, fuck it. I got to get out of the house and go do this.
Mm-hmm.
Go to get out of the house. Nothing's really open.
Yeah.
And if stuff was open, everyone at that point had a form of xenophobia, I guess. It was like, do you have it?
Yeah, it was
are
real
you
weird
okay?
for a
Are you
while.
okay?
Yeah.
You know, not wanting to have,
Yeah.
that type of interaction.
And it was also like there was a group of people that were not really scared of it. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
they were like, "Are you hugging or are you not hugging or are
Right.
you like shaking hands or?"
Right.
People were talking like, "Oh, shaking hands is gone from
I've
our."
asked that question. I didn't ask you when you came. I just said, fuck it, I'm just hugging you,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I haven't
Yeah.
seen you so long, anyways. But
Yeah,
but
same.
at the same time, it was I feel like I'm part of that, whatever that was, whatever that name is. I was part of that, where I was asking that question first.
Socially awkward.
Yeah, are you? Well, because and I feel like maybe we're in some sensitive times right now.
Yeah.
Not just COVID, just everything. Like everything's a little bit more sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's strange for me because I grew up during a time where sticks and stones may break my bones, but
Yeah.
names will never harm me.
Yeah.
The internet's like, hold my beer. It's
So true, man. Yeah.
How do you balance art and commerce?
It's not easy. It's an interesting question. I feel like I want to take half an hour to think about it and then come back to you. But I mean, it's not easy. There's definitely a cycle in the world of art that I live in, or more so, I think maybe lived in before COVID. There's a cycle that happens where you're making music to get on labels, to get booked by those labels, events. They throw parties. You're kind of like in this cycle of like feeding your gigging more so than making music from your heart. Like, not to say that happens to everybody, but it can happen, and it's pretty common. If you're not careful, it can sort of run your creative psyche, and that's not good. Then there's the idea of like, oh, I got a gig, I got gigging, commerce, gigging, and you're sacrificing studio time. So you have to find a way to have some balance. It was really hard to do, actually. And gigging always kind of took precedent. And my studio production sort of suffered from it, which is a really common problem for sure, especially with all the traveling. It just wears you down. And by the time you get a groove in the studio on like you gig all weekend, maybe because we're in Canada, you fly out a Thursday possibly, land tired on a Friday. If you're like me, I can't sleep on a plane. So
I can't sleep on planes either.
It's the worst thing.
It's
if I could sleep on a
impossible.
plane, I could DJ like touring until I'm 80.
Right.
But I'm just I just can't figure it out. I've tried a million things. I got buddies that are passed out before we take off.
Are you okay with turbulence?
I mean, I've been really lucky to not experience any serious turbulence. But it's not fun, obviously, but I'm pretty okay with it. Planes going down, it's quite rare. Usually
Sure.
they don't go down from turbulence. But it's
I don't know.
scary. Yeah.
I just feel like when I've been in the middle of it, like
It's scary as shit.
it's fine.
Yeah, it's scary as shit.
I've had some moments, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hit me a couple times when I started flying a bit when, I don't know, shooting the shit with Carlo, and he had already been touring for, I don't know, a few years, I think. He's like, yeah, I've been in some crazy turbulence where, I look around, I'm like, okay, who am I going to try to save if we go down? I was like, what? Like, it just like opened my eyes that you kind of go through these scenarios of like, yeah, maybe we might die today. It's kind of fucked up, but yeah. For me, I would have like mostly these thoughts of like, how are we sailing through the sky right now?
Right.
How is this possible?
Weighs 20,000 tons.
I don't understand.
Moving 500 miles an
what
hour.
What the fuck is going on? How
At
are we
30,000
flying through
feet.
the air? It'll be like 100 flights later, and I'm still like, how is this possible? It's the weirdest thing that we're able to do this, but amazing. At the
Did
same
that
time.
energy help move towards the show? Did it contribute in a positive fashion for you? Because you're not sleeping on the airplane, you're freaked out, you're changing time zones, and then boom, you're at the venue and everyone's looking at you and be like, it's magic time.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't really recall sort of processing whether it did or not, but I'm sure it must have. It's sort of like when you're kind of shaking off your comfort, I find that you kind of can become more expressive, at least when you DJ, and probably most artistic expressions. You're kind of thrown off, so your brains might not be defaulting to the same sort of thing that it might just do naturally. So when I'm like exhausted, I kind of play better than when I'm rested. It's really, I mean, not always, but like, it's this weird, you almost get high a little bit from being tired. You know that I make better music when I'm on low sleep. It's really weird.
Huh.
And if I had this crazy travel experience, which happens a lot, mainly from lack of sleep and just 22 hours, and then you have to take a shower, go to the gig, and there's 1,000 people, and you have to like give them the night of their life. They just spent $40, right? You got to give them their $40 worth, right?
Okay.
So, and you just sort of grin and bear it. It's the weirdest thing. DJing is so cool. You get all this energy from it. Like, I'm the most tired ever. I noticed this like comfort zone. Back in the day, I'd be so tired. Like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do this. And then literally, like, the first mix, not the first track, like, by the time I'm mixing the next one, I guess, I'm like, I don't even think about being tired. And then once I'm done, I'm bag of shit. Like, you can't get me up. It's so weird. I don't understand why that happens, but I love it at the same time.
How did working in a vinyl record store with music aimed at DJs help you in your career?
Yeah, it was a huge, huge help. I was really fortunate for that step. I was able to convince my high school to turn, we used to get like co-op credits for working basically in the workforce. They'd give you, and they would be sort of like aligned with certain credits in your high school.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know if it still is, but I mean, I'm old, so I'm talking about like 98, 99, okay? And I was able to convince my school to give me 2 English credits for working at tracks. I don't know where I got the idea to intern there, but I was into DJing. And
they were more than happy to get the free work.
Oh, yeah. If they're open to this day, they still have interns flowing in and out of that place vacuuming the ground. Like, that's how those guys, they had interns going in and out. And I guess they liked how I worked, and they gave me a job.
Right.
And
it must have been great.
It was a really, really huge influence in my, DJ career, music life. I would even say more so music than DJing, because I was buying all kinds of music, from drum and bass to R&B to house to techno. Like, I discovered music like crazy in there, because there are many, many dead hours in the store, and you have to keep records playing, because that's how you get buyers buying. It's one of the best ways to get buyers buying. You're playing music. And so what do? You're trying this, you're trying that. Customers are, drum and bass customer comes up with their stack. Hip hop guy comes with his stack. I hear all of that.
Right.
I'm playing it for them, basically. Right. In those days, you got to play the record for the customer.
Right.
Or they have their own turntable, but one of the main ways is, we're playing their records for them at the time. And so I got to hear all this amazing music. So it was a massive, massive influence. And then to be able to work with like Peter and Tyrone, starting from scratch. I mean, Tim Patrick, there are so many guys I was influenced by. And I was really, really lucky to have that experience, for sure. Yeah.
It sounds like a glory moment, actually. Tracks was one of the first stores that I shopped in.
Yeah, me too, actually, before I was working there.
Because it had an easier layout to navigate than Play D.
It's so true, actually. Play D, I think, is the better store.
I mean, for music selection?
Okay. We would battle who had the, this, unreleased.
You guys were down
thing.
The street from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a couple scams going on with, like, I don't know if Kenny would mind me saying this, but like back in the day, Peter and Tyrone, there was a couple records that were like big records where
83 West records, you mean, or
no, like just like a big tune. Like, do you remember Disco's Revenge of Gusto? I'll never forget this. Like,
fuck yeah, massive
tune,
massive.
The rumor, at least, and it's not like I asked Tyrone if this actually happened, but my understanding of what I heard is true. Is so Kenny, was DJing. I think it was JMK, Jeremy, Mike, and Kenny back in those days. And Peter and Tyrone. Peter and Tyrone were the buyers at Tracks for house music. Kenny was the buyer at House for House at Played a Record. And they did
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is, I guess, going back quite a while. Yeah. This has got to be like 2000 or 2001.
Wild.
Something like that. Yeah. And they wouldn't order, 200 copies of the song, because they didn't want every DJ to have the song, so that they were the only ones playing it in the city. That went on for like a couple of weeks, and then they would like flood.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, it's not available, and this is what I heard they would do. I never saw them do it. I was like 18, just kind of like taking it all in.
Right.
But those kind of moves went on in those days. It was definitely a super elitist atmosphere. But that was the only thing I didn't like.
Couldn't possibly really do that today. I mean, I guess you have a friend that they made a track called a whip, and then only 10 people had that whip.
Yeah.
And that's the closest of modernizing this type of action.
Yeah.
But accessibility changed everything.
There's a couple things that people can do, but I mean, Shazam really makes it almost impossible at this point.
Right.
Because, there was a while where people were naming their files in a certain way.
Yeah.
So that the train spotters weren't like looking over their shoulder or their laptop, seeing what their tracks were.
Right.
But I mean, there's a lot of, the other thing that a lot of people are doing too, just editing music, making their own version, like it's classic Danny Tenaglia move.
Right.
Yeah.
What benefits did you bring home to the heart from touring internationally?
What benefits?
If you're doing a show here in Toronto and you're killing it, but then you get on an airplane, you fly 10 hours somewhere, you land, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You're in a different part of the world. Everyone is different. But at the same time, because I guess the universal awesome sauce of music, the reactions are very similar. You have someone from Italy killing it on their dance floor, a raver, and then you have someone in Toronto, they're killing on the dance floor. These two people never have to say a word to each other, but if they both know the song and they love the song, they could high five right away, and you could be next to each other and rocking it. Is that the same with DJing?
It's interesting. I may not have realized it as much, but I had this like feeling more of like I'm bringing what I got from Toronto out, more so than kind of the other way around.
Okay.
There were a couple times where I'd be gone for a long time and came back, played in Toronto, and there was like, that fake adoration that you get that's like, welcome home, blah, blah, blah. But you get like a little bit more of an energy, but it's not, being able to kind of take a crowd that you don't know, they don't really know you. Maybe they know a track you made, but they never heard you DJ before. And to really get to a point where you can connect with them, that was something that I didn't have very much in Toronto because I really knew a lot of the people. I was DJing 4 nights a week. Like I had to figure out how to play to the same people 4 nights a week with different tracks. So to me, I learned more about true DJing kind of in my experiences, I think, in Toronto that I took abroad more so.
You're from an era and time when DJs had to pay their dues. Working small clubs with busted monitors and venue operators that listened to dance music with disdain and probably resentment. These elements of operation honed skill and ability, in my opinion. How do you feel about the current path that's happening? And for example, a hot social media account, or a dope track and suddenly a headliner.
It's easy to like just be jaded about it, I guess, but that's not really in my nature. There are definitely some people that are out there in the world that are, touring and huge, and that they're not really huge because they're a great DJ. Like that's not what makes them, a draw, and have thousands of people. Some people have like great social media. Some people have like, they're so entertaining to watch behind the decks. You're just like that. You're enjoying that, even if you're not really into the music. So I don't know. They're using the tools that they have, same as we did, and it definitely, I would say it was harder. It's way easier to get, fans even nowadays, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of relative in a different way,
Do you love social media?
No. I mean, I've been around a long time, so for me, social media has been one of the like least favorite times in my overall experience of DJing. And I'm talking like, when I bring up me DJing, I'm talking about me DJing high school jams when I'm 17. Like that's an era for me too, And so to me, this social media era now, it feels sort of like a section of time more so than this is how it is now. I don't think it'll always be like this. And
really? What could it go to?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening in Web3. I think a lot of the kids coming up and living in social media are so tired of how mentally tough it is on them and all the physical appearance struggles that they got to deal with. I think a lot of them are just like, fuck this shit. I think that's happening a lot. I think a lot of them are getting taxed. I'm no pro in it. That's just kind of my assumption. For me, I noticed a big change when like the dance floor was just sort of people dancing, right?
Okay.
And then they kind of turned to like they're facing the DJ. You know, that changed. That was a transition for me where all of a sudden the room's looking at me. I'm like, this is weird. I don't want to be looked at. I just want to DJ. It's weird. They're all like looking at me. Like,
Do something, you mean? Like,
yeah, well, they're just like, you know, they're just looking at me. It's like, why are you guys staring at me? I'm not interesting to look at. I got my head down. I'm working. That's the way I DJ. I'm not really like interesting to watch. That's just how I am. And I'm not going to try to fake it, right? And anyway, so then after that, it became, all of a sudden I have to post pictures of my face, myself, and constantly be on camera to keep up with that. And that was definitely something that I wasn't comfortable with. I didn't get into DJing for any of that, for any of the visibility. I got into it because it was really fun to make people have fun. So when the social media part came in, it changed things a little too much for me. And the actual, you know, having to keep up with posts and having to like, you know, post yourself and this is what I'm doing, and like the bullshit that you post where it's like, I live a great life in the studio, you know, yeah, I don't post any of the negative mental stuff that go on in this career, or the loneliness of traveling, and you know, so it just felt so fake that I just really got tired of it, and I'm not too interested in it now. I try to have some fun with it sometimes, but
yes,
I don't have the patience for it anymore. I do it here and there,
right,
when I want to. I'm trying not to let it control me as much anymore. As a poster, I'm not talking about as a user, because that's a whole nother problem. You know, it's so easy, like we were talking before, it's so easy to just be scrolling, looking at everyone else having the best day ever.
Right.
You know,
which is what it is. It's best day ever, best day ever,
yeah,
best day ever,
constant best day ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Constant best day ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm a slob in bed at 12. You know what I mean? I'm a piece of shit at bed in 12, and I can't get my ass out of bed. And I'm looking at you being amazing in the studio. Or not you, but you know what I mean, a person in general that I'm looking at.
Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah. And so to me, it's just such a mental battle on a lot of different levels that it took away from what I enjoyed of DJing, personally. Yeah. But, you know, I still have fun with it, and I still use it as best I can. I know I don't have a good social media what's
presence.
The word? Presence.
Okay.
I don't put work into it, man. I put work in other stuff, so I just don't have the patience for it. And you know, I know that my career probably suffers to a degree, but I can't do the fake stuff. I maybe one of these days I'll get to a point where I like hire someone to run it, and I mix in some of my own posts with that, just so I can keep like some promoters happy. And I'm barely posting flyers, you know, but
you bring up the fake stuff thing, and I think to myself, is that what people want? I mean, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is that, and so why?
I guess like, well, it depends on who those people are that are receiving what you're sending, but I think a lot of other DJs,
the majority of humans in North America, maybe, or maybe even planet Earth, you know.
Yeah.
We're here, so you know, I see the effects of if I'm in my car and I pull up to a bus stop and there's people at the bus stop and I look over, there's 10 people at the bus shelter area. Everyone's got their necks crooked down.
Yeah.
Everyone's buried into their screen. No one's talking to each other.
Nope. You know, I did see an image from, I don't know what era it was, 30s or 40s or 20s, whatever, some time back then. And it was everyone on a bus, or, you know, it seemed like they were on a bus, and literally everyone in the picture was reading the newspaper, not talking to each other. So,
right.
You know, maybe it's kind of relative.
The more that things change, the more they stay the same.
I guess in a way, you know. I'm sure way more people were talking to each other back then, though. Don't get me wrong.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Are you done with the sports section?
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
When did you start your own record label?
Well, I kind of had like two beginnings. I started Rawthentic. What year was that, man? Started with my brother, actually.
Roots and Wings came first.
No, Rawthentic came first. We had like a second. I'll tell you. Basically, Rawthentic came first. I think it was 2004, like early Beatport days. Me on my own with my brother. And I hadn't even met Carlo yet. And then a couple years later, I would say, me and Carlo connected, made some music together, and I was just like, "Do you want to come in on the label?" You know, we just bonded really quickly, and it just made sense. And we did that together for a while, and then years really, and then lots of releases and fun and all kinds of experiences with Rawthentic as me and Carlo running it together. Right. And then I stepped away from the business for about 5 years or so. And over that time, I really missed being in music and being involved in music. And so I was like, oh, I'll start a label up. And that's when I started Roots and Wings at that point, to sort of still have like a little bit of a musical expression that I missed from not DJing so often at that time. And that's when I started Roots and Wings. And then me and Carlo relaunched Rawthentic together in, I think it was 2018 now.
So on the Hawk Creations website, when I was going through the bio that they have posted for you there, it suggests that you sold the label to Carlo.
I kind of like just gave my half away. I forgot about that part. When I left the business, I was like, just take the label, do your thing. You're having this like amazing ascent in his career at that time. And it was probably a mistake of mine. And he didn't really like what I was saying, and he didn't want me to do this, but I stepped away, and because we were a duo pretty much. We were like gigging around the city. I basically was like, I'm done with the duo. I'm done with gigging. I'm done with like all of it. And
how did you reach that place?
Man, that's like a kind of a deep story, but basically I was kind of like lying to myself. I was going through a rough patch, and I basically I quit, and I didn't, they say like the tough stick it out type thing. I didn't stick it out through a hard time, basically, and I let it kind of beat me. That's like basically what it comes down to. But there are all these, I kept like telling myself.
But you came back so fucking strong.
Yeah. Happy, and luckily it worked out like that, but it wasn't part of any plan or anything like that. It just kind of randomly worked out. It was the weirdest thing, because me stepping away, I ended up making music, which I hadn't done in my prior days, especially while I was working with Carlo Rawthentic. I was just DJing. I wasn't really making that much music. And then after I stepped away for years, and like Carlo was touring the world, it was amazing to watch like what he was doing, the Junkies, art department. These are like homies of mine. And I was just so proud and encouraged. And I was like, I wasn't thinking about doing any of that, but I was just thinking about how much I missed being engulfed in the music. And next thing you know, I'm just going home every night after work, making music for the first time really in my life. So that's kind of when I emerged into having a production experience. And I used Roots and Wings to get my music out there. And then slowly something started to connect, and which turned into touring pretty much. Wow. And then I stopped Roots and Wings because I felt that I needed to put more time into the studio, kind of, and less. The label was kind of, I realized studio time is how I want to spend most of my time. It would have been great to keep both going, but I had to make a decision. So I stopped the label and focused on the studio at the time.
Because those efforts ended up landing your music in like Marco Carollo's hands, for example. Yeah. And the next thing you know, he's like, yo.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of how it worked, but not exactly. But I had a track that I did for Stacy Pullen's label called Hard Work. I like my first real like international label experience was on Records with Radio Slave's label. And that was sort of like eye-opener for me, because I don't know, it was just like a big respected artist that liked my music, Right. There was definitely a few of those going around, but Radio Slave, he's and then I started, I hooked up with Stacey. I forget exactly how I met Stacey. I think I met Stacey through Johnny White back in the day or something. But I ended up working on his label, making some tracks for his label, and I sent it out. I think I sent it out an email to a bunch of DJs. And back in those days, there was a lot of like, email swapping. Like you'd get, someone would send a promo out, and it would have like all the big DJs on there, and you'd be like, I'm swiping all these emails, right. Or you ask around, we'd share emails. My label also helped me get in contact with a lot of, pretty, important DJs. And so I sent him that promo of the track that I did for Stacy, and he played it, I don't know how long later, maybe a few months later at Amnesia. And yeah, it was kind of like, I'm not going to say viral, like that's not the right word, but it was a little before viral was happening. This was like YouTube and Facebook days.
Right.
Those two. There wasn't really Instagram rolling around. And there was just all these videos of him playing it and Amnesia, and it was just insanely surreal. And then the A&R for Defected was there. He looks at the guy's laptop, sees the name of the track and my name, and hunted me down and asked for it. And I had to ask Stacy, could I please put on Defected? This is one of my labels from like, I grew up on Defected. You know what I mean? I had to like, would you mind releasing it? And he was cool enough to let me do that. And then I just got to know a little bit of like the Music On crew here and there. Through like a couple of friends, Sivan, and they ended up DJing in Montreal, and I got booked to open for Corolla. This is what happened. I got booked to open for Corolla at Footwork. Another important Toronto experience that took me other places, you know. And so he played stereo on Friday night, and on Saturday he's playing at Footwork, but I'm opening. So I go to Montreal to check him out and kind of like hobnob with his crew, his agent, his manager, all this shit, and just like, because I know he's probably gonna play my track at stereo, and kind of connected with them. End up missing my train back to Toronto. I had to like beg a friend from Montreal to drive me all the way to Toronto. I'm doing all my gig prep in the back seat.
Oh my God.
Packed full of 6 people in this car. Everyone's like partying in the car. It was kind of crazy. And then basically like took a shower, get to the gig, exhausted.
Right.
And I had probably like one of my better sets ever. And not a bragging type thing. It was just like, that was kind of what happened. And it wasn't like blow the room up type. It was just like there was so much excitement for Corolla that I already had all this energy to work with in the room. It was so packed in there. Corolla doesn't come to Toronto very frequently. And so I did a really good job. And the Music On people were there, and they were like, man, we got to get this kid coming with us. And they put me on their agency and started taking me to like Italy and, Mexico and Ibiza and all that stuff. It's pretty much how that all happened. Kind of from one track in a way, But
wild.
It was a journey of an experience for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And I appreciate Marco has always given me, a listen. So I appreciate it. He's a cool guy. So he seems pretty stoic, but he's a cool guy. Yeah.
Are you still sampling in a traditional fashion when you're producing?
Yes and no. I guess I am more than I even want to admit, but I wouldn't even say it's traditional the way I do it. I mean, I'm in the box mostly. I have lots of external gear that I mess around with, but I just like learned how to make music on Ableton. So that's where I'm still to this day most comfortable. I can get things going real quick in Ableton. And so, I would bring a lot of samples in there. I don't know if I would consider that traditional. I'm not,
right.
breaking out an MPC or an
right.
SP1200.
Okay, you're not using this. Yeah.
Although most of the music I grew up on, I'm most influenced by is, made on SP or an MPC. But that's just how I got used to working with warping. And, I might chop stuff in through Simpler and put it to some pads and play around. But I'm still kind of doing that. Just not sampling as much. I'm trying to, I guess, learn how to be a little more music. Like I said, I'm taking guitar lessons. I'm trying to be like expand my horizons as a musician.
Can you recall a time during a set when it was going awkwardly or badly for you and you were able to turn it around into something awesome sauce?
I have all these flashes of empty dance floors hitting me, but like I don't have this specific one. Well, yeah. There's some scenarios where I'm like, I'm not used to. In Toronto, I was really fortunate to play a lot of amazing gigs. We had amazing crowd in this city that love to go out for a long, like it's years we've had this. And so there are like a lot of people going out. We have a really healthy scene. There aren't that many dead parties, and some of them are busy enough that you don't really got to worry about clearing a dance floor. If I see 25% of the club full, which happens sometimes, it's a little harder because you got to figure out how to really keep them there, because they have to be they're a little vulnerable being the only ones on the dance floor in a way. So when they scatter off, I just thought of a really awkward one I had, but it didn't come back around. That room got emptied out.
What happened?
Totally emptied out. I just remember this is basically at the beginning. Michael Bibi asked me to play his like his part. It's right when he just started to blow up. He was big in London for a long time, but he was really like popping now, you know. And he's like, play, you know, come play the second room. It'll be sick. Da da da. Yeah, fun. It's Fabric, amazing Fabric London, like one of the, you know, noted to be one of the better clubs in the world. And he went on. Me and him went on at the exact same time. He went on in room 1. I went on in room 2. And room 2 is wicked, and it totally emptied. I was like shell shocked. My agent came, my manager came, all this like support came out there. I was so happy for me and proud, and it was just like an empty dance floor. It was tough. That was a tough one. There was no coming back from that. It didn't fill back up. Everyone was in that room. That was crazy.
What did everyone that turn up? Was there any feedback from them? Or were they?
No, everyone was like, "Hey, tough night." You know what I mean? Because
okay.
What can you do? I'm play at so many great gigs. I'm not gonna, you know, cry about it. But it was tough. It was a little bit like, you know what I mean? But I just tried to have fun with it. You just try to just play, just have fun. That's the cool thing about DJing. Even if the room's empty, you still got the music. You still like, I'm having fun right now. But you know, it's definitely a good ego shot. But
that's the best perspective.
I guess it's kind of true though, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
For real. Did you get signed to OXO?
No, not the label, but basically their management company. Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, that's another story that also relates to Comfort Zone in an interesting way. I have a longtime good friend, Lindsay. She's from Toronto. She used to bartend at Comfort Zone, and all the while she's been working on her music career. She's been, you know, helping. Basically, the company's called Sal & Co. And you know, Weekend's a partner, from my understanding, and you know they have an incredible roster of producers, singers, artists, and she's been with them since they were in Toronto. From pretty sure, my understanding, from back in those days, and she just progressed with them to the point where she's in LA. She's incredible. She's running everything, and she's just like, she's an inspiration. And we've been friends through all these years. And so I don't remember exactly, but we were, I think, just talking online, and she loved my album. And we were just talking about it. And, you know, I told her about how in those days I was really getting a little bit like, I really want to try more of making other kinds of music, because I've been making house music, techno, tech house for a long time at that point. And I grew up on all these different kinds of music. Like I said, at tracks, I was influenced by all kinds of shit. Like, why am I only making one kind of music? I want to make everything that I like, you know? But my career if my career went the way of that music, and next thing you know, you're kind of making this music because that's kind of the world you're living in a way. So I started dabbling in different genres through talking to her. I was telling her, you know, I really want to make all this different music. And she was like, yeah, do it. Send me all your music. Like, I want to hear it, you know?
Okay.
And it's been about maybe almost 4 years of just making different sounds, and from trap to R&B to, you know, future, all kinds of different shit, and just enjoying making what I'm feeling, even if it doesn't mean it's going to be house music. And then when I'm making house music, I'm feeling even more inspired because it's not feeling so forced as it was at times when I was in that like rat race.
Wow.
And then so eventually we just got talking, and yeah, I was lucky enough, she introduced me to James, who's my manager now, and he's amazing. And I've been, you know, to LA talking with them, and had some sessions with you know, producers that they've introduced me to, and they invited me onto the roster, and we've just been basically working together since then. So yeah, it's a new world that I'm working on and super inspired by it, and just enjoying. Yeah.
Would this still be under your name, or would you consider to have a new?
I had a little alias going for a while, and I decided against it like about a year ago. And I thought I would have I was a little confused really what I should do. Should I keep things my own name? Should I have a different name? Is it going to confuse people? All this and that. And then I realized, no, I'm just going to be me and just leave it at that.
Would this keep you as like music behind the scenes, or would this
Hopefully.
be more? Hopefully.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would really like to. I just want to make music, you know, and I want to. In the end, I just want to be in music, and you know, I would even be like working at a record label or something. I want to be around music. I would even love to be like a music supervisor, but that's a tough job to get in Canada. There's like 6 of them in the whole country, I think.
A music supervisor for like TV or right.
Yeah, I'd love to, like, I want to make music for TV, for ads, for, all of that interests me and excites me. So I don't want to stop any of that, Yeah, I enjoy it.
I wonder what a Nathan Barato trap song sounds like.
I could send you. I got like 100.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Wow. Has anything been greenlit for somebody to rhyme or sing over?
Yeah. We haven't had. We're just writing songs,
right?
With no full intention at this point. I consider myself pretty green, extremely lucky to be in this opportunity to begin with, and I have to respect the fact that I have to, pay my dues too in this world. I don't want any handouts. I don't want things given to me before I'm ready to receive them. And so I'm basically just like learning, going through the process, trying to be as patient as I can, just trying to write music. It's a whole different way of making music that I'm not so familiar with, where I'm a very like solitude producer. I'm by myself in the studio. I can do whatever I want. Doesn't matter how weird it sounds. I can try it. But if someone else is in the room, I don't know if I'm going to try that crazy idea because they might think it's shit. Like there's that kind of thing that happens sometimes. So if there's a singer in the room or a rapper or just another producer, it's kind of new for me. So I'm trying to just really expand.
How do you figure out the balance between being something that you can output with confidence and at the same time like where your self-esteem isn't getting affected by the feedback?
I don't have an answer yet. I'm working on it.
Right.
But I've been talking to my therapist about that exactly because it's a challenge for me. I really like to work alone, and I can't help but the way I create, I can't help but feel like I just basically want to have fun and not really kind of get in my head. I'm not really good at that, but I'm trying to like sort of.
Do you like working alone? Because earlier in the show when we started talking, you said like when you and Carlo connected, you guys were like bang right away like magnets.
As DJs, yeah,
okay.
As DJs, my DJing world is a whole different experience than my production.
All right, what's the differences?
I think I've just been DJing since I was a kid. You know what I mean? It's like I can DJ with my eyes closed and no hands. Like it's. Right. One of those things that's just ingrained in my brain, and
picking up a pencil and just start writing.
It's. Okay. I just feel pretty much always. I'm not gonna say confident in the cocky side, but just like I know what I got to do. I know how to do it, and 9 times out of 10, I should be able to pull it off. You know what I mean? But with the studio, I'm pretty much like 10 years in. It's still kind of new, in a way. So it's not as ingrained. Plus, I'm learning all these different genres and trying all these new things, which it's going to slow down my progress, but I'm just very happy doing it. So in terms of working with other people, even with Carlo, it was hard at times because I felt more comfortable by myself, and he's chill, amazing to be around. There's nothing negative about him, but it was more about just me being shy to expose maybe what's in my mind, because I don't want, you get through this like really mental scenario where, at least this is what happened to me, and apparently it's a little common, at least with some of the solitude type producers, but you'll get an idea and you almost want to try it. I like to try everything. That's my style. I'll try anything in the studio because, I just want to try it and then I'll decide if it's shit or not, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I will get shy to do that in front of people until I've gone through the process. I tried all the ideas. I picked the good ones. Now you can hear it because now I went through the shit ones. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because if someone else is in the room and they're like, oh yeah, that's good, my like self-sabotage might be they think it's shit and I won't actually do that idea.
Self-sabotage. Do you feel a bit of like I don't call it, I didn't make it up, imposter syndrome? Like where you feel like
man. Oh yeah.
Like how the fuck am I in this room right now? And how did
100%. Why? Like I'm like that definitely in the Salco world right now, where I'm just like, yeah. You can't help it sometimes. I try to talk myself out of it, and I'm like, I don't deserve to be in this position, but I do. Yeah. For whatever reason I'm here for a reason, and I have to like make the most of it. But I'm quick to think the negative. You know, that happened with gigging a lot too, especially when the touring kicked in, and I really wasn't ready for the international experience.
Were you really nervous before you stepped up?
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though it's natural for you.
I still get pretty nervous.
What is it? Is it the room and you're concerned about the reception, or is it the mechanical aspect? You don't want to blow the mixes, or is it both?
Kind of everything.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. But I mean, and I would over prepare, which means you overthink. You're thinking
Right.
about it for like 2 weeks about one gig, agonizing. You know, I mean,
Right.
I did that forever, even before international, right?
Yeah.
Still do that. I just played Vertigo. I did an all-night set. I was agonizing about that, but in a good way. It's a good energy, especially if you can like carry it with you, and if you're nervous at your gig, if you can channel that, like that's a good energy to. It's not a negative energy. To me, it was like it gives me energy, and it's just like I'm excited. But you know, definitely there are certain gigs where you're like nervous about screwing up a lot.
Are you showing up to gigs with a pre-planned playlist, or are you just grabbing here's a bunch of music I fucking love, here we go?
No, I have it a little bit more like the record days where, you know, we had to make a crate. You can't take all your collection out with you every gig. You got a crate or two or whatever you can carry. You got to pick your records for that night,
Right.
basically, and you're stuck with that. And then, you know, it got a little worse. The CDs was tough because you're like flipping through the CD book, like, I don't know where that track is by Claude Von Stroke. Next thing you know, I'm alphabetizing all my CDs so I could find stuff. And then now, you know, with, you know, Tractor, Serato, Record Box, whatever, you have access to thousands of songs. So what I like to do is to just sort of like make a crate, basically, where it gives me some direction. These are some tracks I think are gonna work tonight, or whatever it is. And a lot of the times, like, I'll be surprised because I gotta like totally dip out of the crate and something hits me on the fly and I gotta search it out. So it's just kind of sort of like a starting point, maybe.
You've been here in Toronto pretty much from the start of when things started exploding. You watched something move from niche to something that became quite popular.
Oh, you mean like the music?
The music,
Yeah.
the clubs, the scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during that time, what would you say would be your favorite era in Toronto for partying?
Oh man, it's tough because it's been good for a long time from my perspective.
Yeah, that's
like,
what you were saying.
It's I still to this day think like it's good here. I want to say like the days when I was a little more partying than I was DJing, I would say. But you know, that's natural, right? It's sort of like high school. You know, high school was best when I was there. After I left high school, like everyone's a loser. You know, like you never kind of heard that before. Maybe I'm.
No, I don't. I'm not.
I don't know. Like it's like when you graduate high school, like everyone that's still there is like not cool anymore. You know, like there was. Not to say I ever felt that about Toronto and the market, but it was like when I was having my heyday as going out was industry. It was like an industry comfort zone combination. That was
right.
That was my 1-2 punch on the weekend, and it was like it was incredible, man. Like it was fuck.
You were out for 48 hours.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't 48 hours, it was just like amazing energy. We were really fortunate to go through that experience, I think. And there was a whole huge, amazing rave culture going on that I wasn't really into. It wasn't like I avoided it. It was just the people I kind of came up with or whatever just didn't really gravitate to, I guess, a lot of the artists that were at raves, especially locally. So I was more of a club kid, you know? And then I started kind of experiencing raves from like, you know, going to check out Tim Patrick because we worked together at the record store and stuff like that, right? We were homies. But I was more of a club guy. So for me, I can't help but feel like the best era was industry comfort zone in those days. Like those days in particular, comfort zone was like a mess, man. Insanely packed, no capacity controlled, playing records on tables that were just getting bumped constantly. Addy's mixing 3 records at once, fucking shit skipping everywhere, and he's like, all good. You know, like it was just a crazy energy. It was amazing. Yeah, I loved it.
I'm thinking about another form of crazy energy. Your family is Portuguese,
Yeah.
but ran some of the best Italian food out of a restaurant.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
and that
Yeah.
after
Also ran some of the best Portuguese before that, just so we're aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard that that there would be congress of like you, Flipside, and other people after like tracks would close down.
Yeah.
You guys would head to the family restaurant and eat.
Yeah, that happened a bunch. In those days, yeah, we'd work at the record store, maybe go eat before we'd go to like watch Peter and Tyrone gig.
Right.
You know, we were kind of, a lot of us were like kind of following them around all their gigs pretty
And
much.
it made me think of the comparison, because you'd be working at the record store and you'd be fueling the record bags, and then after the record store closed, you'd bring it up to the restaurant, you'd be fueling for the energy, and then you're off to the gig.
So true. Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah. I grew up in a restaurant basically. That was like home base, you know.
Right.
So, yeah. It was always where we went before and after gigs or even high school dances, or like that was kind of like, you know, we were in and out of there all day pretty much. So
You must be a music encyclopedia, especially for house, techno, and tech house. So this is where I'm going to put you in the hot seat, especially since you were calling with me that maybe my memory might not be so solid. But
I might
let's go.
disappoint you, unfortunately.
I
But
don't
let's
know.
try it.
I don't
Let's
know.
try.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the gears to you.
Okay.
What would you say were the best 3 records for you that stayed in your record bag from then? Either they're classics or modern classics, something that's even relatively new. 3 tracks that you absolutely adored and loved that you would use at your shows.
Man, honestly, it's hard to say 3, not because of the memory problem that I have, but because there's still a lot of music I play from back then that still gets run to this. Like last Saturday, I played a bunch of music that I've been playing since like '95. Yeah, and they still sound good. Like the one that just come to mind is Lil Mo Yin Yang Reach. It's Louis Vega, Kenny Dope. They chopped up India's vocal from, I can't remember which song she did now, but you know, 909, I'm pretty sure most of it was made on the 909. It's just pounding drums. It still sounds really good, and it still holds up to, you know, a lot of this digital, strong produced music over compressed, and it just goes off. Big breakdown, big build up, and still musical at the same time. Those guys are geniuses though. But, you know, Basement Jaxx, Fly Life, me and Carlos still run that shit all the time. We can't, like, that's definitely like a clincher for us. And
The original mix?
yeah, I don't think it's called the original mix. They had like 2 versions, right?
The,
They had,
the long one with the big
the one that's
breakdown?
like dark and a little crazy.
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, it's not the original mix. It's like the B-side mix or something.
Right.
But they had a name to, I forget now, to be honest. I had call it Fly Life, but it's technically not the original, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been re-released on Atlantic Jacks, and it's on Beatport right now.
Yeah, it should be. Third one, you know, I played like CC Peniston finally the other day.
Come
Or not the
on.
other day, like a couple months ago in Chile. And it was an after party kind of scenario where you can kind of just play whatever you want.
Okay.
And, you know, the arrangement's not really structured too well for DJing, so there's a lot of looping going on. It's really drag it out before that, like, you know, bass line kicks in, and yeah, it went off. And it sounded really good. It also sounded really strong.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that I could probably still play at the right time and place. I played Alan Brack's intro. What's it called, intro? The one that sampled the Jetsons, big bass line.
Is that on Roulette?
No, I forget the label he did it on, actually. I forget now, but it's called Intro. It's a classic track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love playing a lot of old shit. Daft Punk all the time. Around the World is one of the easiest tracks you could ever play. Plates goes off all the time. It always sounds fat on the system, you know. Can't help it. They sound good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We want to hear your music online. Where should we go?
Spotify, you can find pretty much everything I'm doing there. I put a lot of DJ mixes on SoundCloud, some on Mixcloud, and I'm posting whatever I get the chance on Instagram pretty much. That's pretty much the best place. Just search my name, Nathan Barato, and it'll come up. Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was fun.
Oh my God.
Enjoyed myself.
Made me laugh lots. Great. And big smiles. All of you, thank you very much for tuning in. You are truly awesome sauce, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. If you've had a great time, and I hope you have, there's more awesomeness right here. Jump into these episodes. You know you want them.